Okay, and here we are again because if you've been rocking with me for a long time, you understand that my video goes out randomly. At least this time it is working and the connection is a-okay. So here's part two of our discussion. We were talking about some scenarios that were going to help us price our book, help us gauge what we could sell our book for, and understand what royalties even mean and if I should expect big royalties. And so I want you to get your notes back out, the same notes you already had. This is the same discussion. It's not a new discussion, same old stuff. Okay, so we were talking about pricing of books, and we were to the point where I told you that when I am advising my clients, I tell my clients to buy 100 copies of their book. And then the reason that we do that is because, again, the demand on your book when it first comes out is going to be pretty high. So you want to take advantage of that demand for your book and buy as many books as you possibly can when it first comes out. You don't want to not invest at that time. If you can, do what you can. If you can't, do what you can, just because people are going to see you and they're really going to want to tap into the book that you have and use that really as a method to sell yourself. There have been many scenarios that I've seen coaches or my colleagues in other areas who have speaking engagements, who vend, who just do all types of stuff. So your name could be out there, but you don't necessarily have a product. Books are a great way to have a product that is an extension of your service, even if it's not necessarily relevant to the service that you're providing. It is definitely an opportunity for you to take advantage of the market that you currently have for yourself. And so you want to do that by buying a good number of copies of your book. Like I said, 100 is where we could start at. But if you want to do more than that, if you know that you are going to be selling your books better than the average seller, then that's no problem. Make sure that you don't sell yourself short, that you can do all that you can to get the money that you can. So again, pre-sales are a way to do that. And that's really the foundation of how all of this conversation is getting started, is just making sure that you pre-sale where possible for your books. If you can't do pre-sales, there's still numerous ways that you can take advantage of a seller's market. And a seller's market exists ideally in book publishing. In this case, it exists when that book is first coming out. So you want to drum up interest for your book. And the way to do that is through pre-sales, through sharing with people what's happening at various points of your process, through sharing with people the fact that you are publishing a book, and just keeping them posted on the different elements or different time stamps of the different collaborations that you're doing, the connections, just keeping people well versed in what's going on in your book, or going on with your book, sorry. You can also let them know what's going on in your book, and that is up to you. In my case, I didn't do that. During the time that I published my first book, my grandmother was hospitalized several times for a duration of time, so I didn't necessarily get a chance to walk out the things that I know to do, and it actually served me very well. People were asking about my grandmother. I was talking about her very often. I was taking the book with me every time I went to the hospital, taking pictures of the book, and not necessarily doing it intentionally, but I do know some marketing tactics, so it did work in my favor. And in that case, I sold 200 books in the first few days of the book's release. And so even though I had 100, in my case, they sold out. In your case, the same thing could happen and more, should you market your book accordingly, and should you do your pre-sales as directed by your publisher, okay? If your publisher does not talk to you about pre-sales, then feel free to reach out to me and we could, have those types of conversations. So back to it. Let's see, the next element of it is royalties. Let's just talk about royalties. Most people don't know what royalties are. You kind of hear it, but you don't know literally what it means to have royalties, how you are supposed to take advantage of royalties. So royalties, when it comes to books and publishing, is just the fact that when you sell your book, there is no cut and dry profit that is made. Profit from book sales goes to so many different places. So the printer gets profit, the publishing house gets profit. The brick and mortar companies that sell your book get profit. Amazon or any online channels that you use, this is what's called global distribution in some cases. So you have like the Amazon, the Books A Million, the Barnes and Noble, and all types of online sellers. Like your book could be international if you wanted it to. And if your book is being sold through all of those channels, then there's royalties involved. What royalties are going to include are the costs that these various channels are charging you to have your book in those various places. So to the author, you don't necessarily worry about that. That's what the publisher is responsible for, making sure that, when the book sells, that profit gets back to you. Now, most people don't understand this, and it's something that's very complicated. It's also something that is very frustrating, and that is the fact that royalties can take a long time to ever hit our bank, and that is our bank as the publisher. When the royalties hit my bank, I can then transfer it to you. But royalties, especially in the case of Amazon, people always, Amazon is a big channel because they're a very popular global distributor. But Amazon takes, let's say, 90 days to get the money to me. Even as a seller on Amazon, it takes me a while to get that money to me. So after Amazon gets me the money, then I can get it to my clients. So my clients typically are going to respect their royalties in forms of checks, so on and so forth. Sometimes, and probably majority of time, my clients get their royalties back in services rendered, or I hold the royalties to new books. Depending on the relationship that you have with your publisher, then it's different things. Sometimes royalties never come. Many cases we're selling our books out of our hands more so than selling them on our online channels. And that's really according to how you market the book as well. But royalties are like, if I sell something on Amazon, I post it for $15. Amazon charges me 30% of that. And so let's say 30% of 15 is going to be $5. So if Amazon charges me $5 as a publisher and or seller, then the profit that they make, I posted it for 15, Amazon sold it for 10 because they need to get a discount rate. So it already cost me $5 to post on Amazon. So my profit at this point is only a possible $5. So that $5 has to go to several different channels before it comes into your pocket for whatever it's going to be as the balance. So off of a $10 Amazon sale, you may make $3 or $2. And that's just the way it all works. There's a lot of calculations that go on, but sometimes it seems like a publisher is trying to gyp you or something, and they're not. It's just really the reality of how these things are sold, which is why indie authors and publishers came to be. It's because the big publishing houses seem to be charging so much money to publish our books that indie authors, indie publishers, and print houses decided that we were going to allow smaller time authors or smaller publishers to be able to publish these books and not have to pay outrageous amounts. So usually if I'm publishing through Simon and Schuster, because that's who I want to be an author of in some future day, if I'm publishing through Simon and Schuster, what they typically would do is they would forward the client a check. They would forward you like $100,000 check in advance. So they give you like a cash advance for selling them the book, selling them the rights to the book, so on and so forth. But even when they give you that, it's not a royalty check. It is I have the property that is your intellectual property is now mine. And so when they do that, they give you something that's upfront, which is why when you become a big time author, yes, you get a lot of money. When you're a little baby author, you don't necessarily get so much. Okay. And that's just a fact. So I want you to understand that. So now, since my internet cut off, come through Wi-Fi, I wanted to show you some scenarios. So these are just little journals. They're not true books, but I want you to imagine that they are books, because I'm going to just give you some brief scenarios so you can understand this. So this book is 60 sheets. Okay. This book is 80 sheets, right? But if you look at these books lined up, the 60 sheet book looks thicker than the 80 sheet book, right? The reason for that is the quality of paper that is in this book is way different from the quality of paper in that book. So the quality of paper in that book is just like going to be your regular loose leaf paper. This is almost like a 24-pound paper. I know you all don't know that. That's like nerd talk. So your regular printer paper is a 20-pound. 24-pound printer paper is going to be something that is a little heavier weight paper. And so that's why this 60 sheet is looking like it's bigger than this 80 sheet. And so that's what happens when we print our books too. I knew she was going to like that. When we print our books, if I get a higher quality paper, that's going to also increase the amount of money that I'm spending. If I get a paper that is a cream colored paper versus a white colored paper, and I think all of my clients' books are a white colored paper, so I don't have any scenarios for that. But it's like a novel. Novels tend to be like a lesser quality paper that is a cream colored paper, while self-help books are going to typically be this size, and they're going to be a heavier stock, some cases heavier stock, brighter colored paper. Okay, but even when I do the print, I could actually do a light skin, let's say light skin, so that I can put this in layman's terms. A light skin print versus a dark skin, okay? Dark skin print. I'm gonna see if I can show you some areas. So actually, when I first printed this faithfulness journal, I printed it as a light skin print. The reason I printed it as a light skin is because I wanted the sheets to be perforated. So, and what that means, perforation means that I have these little, I could cut out here, it's scored. And when it is scored, that means I can rip the sheets out. And if you have it printed like that, then that means that your paperweight has to be a less paperweight so that they can go in with their cutter and cut it out. And when you do stuff like that, all of those various calculations are going to change the cost of your book. Okay, light skin and dark skin. Okay, that's just so y'all can understand. Okay, so this book is, all of my journals end up being 50 pages. Okay, it's pretty thin. All right, but then I have my client Andrea Grant. This is Andrea. All right, this is her book. Andrea's book, I believe, is 100 pages, if not 80. Let me see, that's 100 pages. Okay. So Andrea's book they're both in color, but my book is 50, her book is 100, okay? And so as you can see, there is a difference in the thickness. And so even though they're both 8.5 by 11 books, of course, it's gonna be a different price for Andrea's because she has a thicker book, more pages, but her print quality is, the thickness of her pages is a light quality. So this is like a 20-pound paper. All right, so these are just some scenarios, and she has a really pretty book. There's a little bit of color in here. All right, and so that's just her book. And then here is the journal. The paper here is a little bit thicker, and that is because of the color. I used premium color. And so the difference in premium color is essentially the fact that in my books, I use very light colors. And so with me using lighter colors, I need to have a high quality light color in order for it to come through okay, so that you could actually see it. So in some of these books, it's like even a yellow ink or a lime green ink, and you want the color to show through, but you also want to show that there's differentiation between the colors. And so with me having some of those lighter colors, I needed to make sure that it was a premium ink so that it can have enough contrast on the paper. So hopefully I'm not speaking in too advanced terms, but hopefully this is breaking it down in a way that you can understand. So the truth of the matter is, book covers are not going to really change the cost of printing your book. The only time you will see book covers changing the cost of printing your book might be if you had a matte book versus a glossy book. Now, everybody understands that. That's your picture. It's like when you go and you print stuff at the Walgreens, because that's what Regina calls it, the Walgreens. She calls it the Walgreens. So when you're printing stuff, you do your photos, you have the glossy photo or you have the matte photo. So here's my book. My first book is a matte finish, which means that it is not shiny, it is not glistening. If you put your fingerprints on it, only if they're dirty. If your fingers are dirty, it will wipe off on this book really quickly. If your fingers were oily, then it'll show up on this book really quickly. And that's just a preference that you can have as an author. I would not recommend a person getting a matte book, okay? But because people, would say, oh, well, you got it, I'm gonna get it anyway, then you're gonna go ahead and get it, and you may not be pleased with it because you didn't want to take the advice. That is up to you. That is just my recommendation. I would not recommend a matte, especially as a daily devotional, because a daily devotional means that people are touching this. I'm hoping they're touching it every single day. But if you're touching this white matte book every single day, then that means that after a while, you're going to have a whole bunch of handprints on here that are not ever going to go away. On a glossy book, handprints can obviously go away because you can wipe them off. On a matte book, they're not going to ever go away, okay? So that's my advice there. Now, here is the book I was telling you about in part 1. And for those of you who did not watch part 1, you can go back and watch part 1. But in part 1, this book is 400. You understand? 400 pages. And with me printing this, my first book as a 400-page book, it cost me $8 if I'm printing like a small amount. It cost me like $9 to print this book. And my retail price of this book is $15. So anytime I give this book away, I have just lost $9, okay? If I sell the book for $10, I've only profited $1, okay? But because I have different materials that I like packaging materials, whatever, all of that type of stuff costs money too. So if I sell a book like this for $10, I'm not making a profit, all right? And most people don't understand that. They may be confused as to why you're selling your book for a certain amount or whatever. It's because it costs that much money. Now, so that my consumers know, when you're buying books like this, like my book, this book, I sell for $8. Even with this book, I may only profit like $1 or $2. My goal with this book was not profit. My goal with this book was just to have it out there. I want it to be all over the place. So that means that if you don't have it, go ahead and buy it, okay? But because I didn't have the goal of profit, then I essentially break even with this book too. When I'm selling this book in other countries, the challenge is if I don't do my conversion correctly, I could actually lose money for selling this book if I don't do my conversions properly, okay? So what I said earlier was making sure that you do not ever sell a book for less than the amount that it cost you to print the book, all right? So I don't have my Diamond Breakthrough book. I don't know why I don't have it. So Diamond Breakthrough is my client, Monique Carter, based out of Orlando, Florida. But she also has a book, and they tend to be pretty thick. I have 3 clients whose books end up being workbooks. So that is Dr. Makisha Doctor, okay? And this is her book. And then that is Andrea Grant, and this is her book. And then I have Miss Monique Carter with Diamond Breakthrough. They all have very thick books, and their books end up being about $30. And it's a great investment of $30. Like, I promise you that. I would not ever let a client charge that much money for a book if it was not worth it, okay? So just keep that in mind. It's well worth it. With Diamond Breakthrough, you get a meal plan, you get a shopping list, you get a workout list. And that's 30 days worth of it. And you get a little journaling section for $30. That's a win-win situation. You get like a fitness coach in a book. So that's a win-win situation. This client of mine, this is my most recent publication from my client. She sells her book for $12. And so it is, let's see, 100 pages, I believe. Yes. So another 100-page book. But again, it's a totally different, like the setup here, this is probably similar. Just the width of it is probably similar, but the dimensions are different. And this one does not come in color. So hers is going to be considerably less to get printed than my other clients. Okay, so that is just a general overview of how much it's going to cost us to print our books when we are working through a publisher. Even if you're doing it yourself, it is still pricey in some cases. So just keep that in mind as the seller, keep that in mind also as a consumer, and hopefully this has helped you to spend wisely and just understand that, when people are selling books, they're not just selling it for the sake of selling it. Now, when you have a book that is like half, so a book that's like this thick, up here you can see it is that thick, and they're selling it for like $35, then, that's on you if you buy that book. Okay, so that's that. I wanted to talk about royalties. I wanted to talk about pricing, and I wanted to talk about just making sure that you trust the publisher that you're working with. And just trust your gut too. It costs a lot to do what we do. I don't think people understand that, but I think that your supporters will support you no matter what. You know, if it's a good book, it will sell itself, essentially. And that's just something that you have to rest assured of, is that your books will sell themselves, but you still have to do your work too, okay? So if anyone has questions, please ask them in the comments, and I will happily answer those questions. Mr. Algin, I hope that Tony sees this and gets whatever feedback is needed. I appreciate all of you for coming and joining a video and commenting where needed. Hello, everyone. And I think that is it for tonight. I don't have any other information to share, but like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me your questions. If you have not seen part 1 of this video or this time, then go ahead and watch part 1 as well. Again, if I could help you with anything, let me know. This is the free element of what I provide. Majority of the time, I do not provide things for free, so I don't want you to be surprised if I provide some pricing to you. But I will try to be more consistent with my Monday videos. I want to do something that I'm going to call Monday marketing, which everyone, if you know hashtags, you know that Monday marketing exists. And so as my schedule has changed, I think there was a lot of hand stuff, wasn't it? As my schedule has changed, I think I will be able to send you more Monday Monday marketing videos. Yes, Yolanda, I am the invoicing queen. Okay, even my family, like, hey, don't play with it. I am an entrepreneur, and I have books that cost me $9 a book to purchase, so I need that. So yes, if you have any specific questions or if you have any video requests, then just let me know. I'll be more than happy to accommodate you where possible. There are a couple videos that I posted a couple months ago that need to be reposted, and I'll be working on those as well. So if you have something related to being an author, if you have anything related to even publishing, I don't mind providing that information. To Yolanda's point, I am the invoice queen. That means that everything I provide you won't necessarily be free, but where possible, I will give you free information, and I don't mind doing that. So that is it. This is Coach D. Nicole. I am signing off. I hope that you all enjoyed this. Thank you, Coach Katana. I'm glad that the information was helpful. I hope that the rest of you found it helpful as well. And I think that's it. I'm trying to make sure I've read through all of your comments and did not miss anyone. That's it. I am signing off, and I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And again, don't hesitate to reach out to me if you need anything. You can send a message to my page, and I'll be more than happy to get your questions answered in a timely manner. Good night, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.